Hello, Amy Major here, a TAP advocate here at CORE, doing the next installment of our Turning 18 videos. This segment is going to be about IEPs and 504's. An IEP is an individualized education plan, and a 504 is actually a section within the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. Both provide supports and accommodations to any kind of disability that affects your progress or mobility inside of a school. A couple of examples of how a 504 and IEP could be used is if you have diabetes and you need access to the nurse in order to test for your blood sugar or receive snacks. Another way could be a 504 plan for somebody who has ADHD and requires a fidget in order to help them focus in class. A 504 and IEP could be utilized for somebody who struggles with reading. If you receive extra reading services, you probably were qualified under an IEP. The important thing to remember is that an IEP or a 504 helps anyone with any kind of disability. A disability is not a bad thing, and having an IEP or a 504 is not a bad thing. All it does is it explains how you learn differently and what accommodations you need to reach the same goals as everyone else. Again, I have to really stress that a disability is not a bad thing. Disabilities actually allow us to see the world in a different way and allows you to have a very unique experience with the world to help us all function and do better in the world. So if you have a disability, that does not mean you can't reach your goal. It just means that you have a different view on how to get there. So you are on an IEP. An IEP is specific to each person that is on it. No IEP is going to look the same, even if you are twins. And basically what an IEP will include is information on your academic performance levels, your academic goals, what goals you want to reach after high school, accommodations to your education plan, and specialized instruction you receive. One of the big difference between an IEP and a 504 is that specialized instruction. So for example, if you really struggle in math and you have a special ed math class, that is a educational service and you would be placed on an IEP. If you receive a resource room, or if there's a study hall you go to, or there's a class that helps you focus on preparing materials, that is a specialized instruction environment, resource room, anything like that, and that could technically put you on an IEP. If you receive occupational therapy, or if you work with a reading specialist, all those are specified education instruction plans, and that is what makes it go on an IEP versus a 504, which only covers accommodations. Usually, specialized instruction is going to happen in a small group, or it could happen one-on-one. So if you're ever in those kinds of settings, again, it doesn't mean that you can't do what everybody else can do. It just means you need a specialized environment in order to perform at the same level. If you are on a 504 plan, they're a little bit more general. They will include your academic performance level, they will include a list of accommodations, and they'll also include the list of teachers that need to abide by those accommodations. Accommodations could be anything from having extended time to breaking down a large project, making sure you have access to the bathroom, making sure you have access to the nurse for medication. It could be making sure that there's access to ramps and elevators in order for you to get from one place to the next. One thing that's important to know, whether you're on an IEP, a 504, or neither, is that you qualify for accommodations and services, and it's important to know what accommodations and services you are receiving so that you can help advocate for yourself as you turn 18 and gain independence. One of the big things this can do is help you right now inside the classroom. If you know what your accommodations are and a teacher is refusing to give it to them, you can cite that you have an IEP or a 504 and those accommodations need to be given to you. It could also help you advocate for yourself as you apply for jobs in colleges. If you decide to disclose your disability, they're going to ask you how your disability affects you. That is written in your IEP and can be used as a guide. Couple of important things to know. By the time you turn 14, you should start being invited to your IEP and your 504 plan. They usually meet once a year, and every 3 years you get reevaluated for everything. So it's important to know what your test results are, what your disability label is, how it affects you, and what accommodations or special services you receive for your disability. As you turn 18, if you keep guardianship over yourself, you will be the one that signs off on your IEP or your 504 plan. So it's important to know what you are signing off on and if you are going to continue receiving those services until you graduate or if you are declining those services. Another reason to know if you're on an IEP or in those settings. As you turn 18 and you think about post-secondary education or joining the workforce, you can still utilize your IEP and 504 plan, but more as a guide to yourself. It's important to know that employment places and educational opportunities after high school do not have to follow your IEP or your 504 plan. However, it's important to know the details within your IEP and 504 so that you can explain to these people, if you choose to, what your disability is and what some reasonable accommodations can be given to you. If you are driven to join post-secondary schools, for example, this could be technical school, this could be community college, this could be public college, this could be private college. It's important to know that if you disclose a disability and request reasonable accommodations, that there are some accommodations most colleges give out. Now, this is most, not all, but some things you can ask for is making sure there's a note taker, making sure there's a recorder or a microphone available in case you can't hear the lecture, asking for extended time on assessments so that you can complete them in a timely manner. There's also services such as writing centers, there's usually student study centers, and you're going to want to get to know the director or dean of students so that you can communicate about any issues that pop up due to your disability. If you plan to join the military and are inclined to take the ASVAB or the aptitude test to join the military, you can request some accommodations based off of your 504 plan or IEP. One thing to keep in mind, the United States military also does not need to follow an IEP or a 504 plan, and they can choose to refuse or accept a ASVAB score because you have requested an accommodation. Now, the most common accommodation for the ASVAB is extended time or having somebody read the answers to you. Because there's a good chance that your application could be rejected for asking for these accommodations, I do encourage that if the military is your goal, practice and use study skills in order to not require some accommodations for the test. Now, that is a recommendation, not a requirement. Obviously, if you need those accommodations, please call and ask. You will work one-on-one with a recruiter who can help you delegate whether or not you would like to use those options. But again, if you choose that you don't want to go into post-secondary education, you don't want to join the military, you can use an IEP or a 504 plan as a guide as you choose to enter the workforce. Again, in places of employment do not have to follow an IEP or a 504 plan. However, it can help you explain what your disability is and how it affects you if you choose to disclose your disability to your employer, and it can also give you a hint on what kind of reasonable accommodations you can ask for from your employer. It's important to know that every IEP and 504 is different and unique to the individual. If you need help understanding your IEP, please call us here at Court so that you can work with one of our advocates and better understand. Remember, an IEP, a 504, or a disability are not bad things. They help you see the world in a very unique way. And your ability to learn differently is a huge benefit to our community. So please do not see an IEP or a 504 and think that's a bad thing and I don't need it anymore. It can be a truly helpful guide as you plan your future and become independent after turning 18. If you would like to receive more information about your IEP, your 504, to help advocate for yourself, please contact CORD at 508-775-8300 or check out our website, www.cordcapecod.org. Thank you.